Picture this. You're standing on the edge of a precipice, peering into an abyss that stretches out infinitely beneath you. It's not just any void. It's a space filled with manipulation and gaslighting, a realm where reality gets distorted like reflections in a carnival mirror. Welcome to the world of narcissists, my friend. But what if I told you there's escape? What if I revealed to you that within your grasp lies the power to send these egocentric tormentors darting away, vanishing like bats fleeing from the light? Imagine walking down a dark alley and seeing lurking shadows closing in on you. These are the narcissists in your life. But instead of feeling fear or confusion, imagine having such an understanding of their psyche that with one simple action, they scatter away as if startled by your audacity. You see, dear listener, there exists an Achilles heel for every Hercules. And today we'll expose that hidden weakness deep within each narcissist. A flaw so profound that when confronted with it, they will retreat faster than a vampire at sunrise. Now hold on to your seat, because this isn't some mystical mumbo-jumbo or pseudo-psychology. This discovery is rooted in years of scientific research and psychological studies conducted by leading experts who've delved deep into the labyrinthine minds of these emotional vampires. When deployed correctly and ethically, yes, ethically, because we aim not to harm but protect ourselves, this strategy works wonders. It's akin to holding up garlic against Dracula or splashing holy water onto demons, except here our demon dons human skin, and our garlic is no physical entity but rather an act so powerful yet disarmingly simple. Brace yourself as we dive headfirst into this journey together, unraveling secrets even narcissists themselves aren't aware of, thus revealing how one specific action can make them run away like a bat out of hell. Imagine being in a room with the most charming person you've ever met. They're charismatic, enchanting even, and they hold everyone's attention as if by magic. But there's something else beneath that irresistible veneer, an insatiable hunger for admiration and control. This is your typical narcissist, a master manipulator who knows exactly how to drain others of their energy to fuel their own inflated ego. Now, imagine having the power to make this narcissist run away from you like a bat out of hell. Sounds impossible? Well, let me assure you it isn't. You see, every narcissist has an Achilles heel. One specific action that will make them recoil and retreat. Let's dive straight into understanding this better through real-life examples. Picture yourself dealing with John, your narcissistic coworker, who loves belittling others to boost his own self-esteem. He thrives on attention and validation, while constantly undermining your efforts at work. Here's what you do. Subtlety is key when dealing with someone like John, because direct confrontation often leads to escalated conflict or manipulation tactics. Instead of reacting negatively or defensively when he undermines your ideas during meetings, calmly assert yourself by reiterating the value of your proposals without devaluing his input. This approach does two things. It cuts off the supply of negative energy that John feeds on, causing him discomfort. Secondly, it shows him that his usual tactics aren't working on you, creating confusion and disorientation. Similarly, consider another practical case involving Sarah, your longtime friend whose grandiose sense of self-importance leaves little room for anyone else's feelings or needs in any conversation or situation. The secret weapon against Sarah? Active listening coupled with targeted questions that gently but firmly shift focus away from her egotistical narratives towards more balanced discussions about shared experiences or mutual interests. Doing this consistently creates an environment where Sarah feels less adored and more exposed. She will then instinctively distance herself from you in search of easier targets who'll feed her ego. In both these scenarios, the key is not to attack but to disarm. By disrupting their habitual patterns and refusing to play into their hands, you create an environment that's uncomfortable for them. And when a narcissist feels uncomfortable, they'll run away faster than a bat out of hell, leaving you free from their toxic influence. So remember, next time you find yourself in the suffocating grasp of a narcissist's charm offensive or under siege from their manipulative tactics, don't panic or retaliate. Instead, arm yourself with this one specific action. Disrupt their game by refusing to be a part of it. Imagine for a moment you're in a room with a narcissist. They've started on their usual routine of belittling and manipulating. But instead of reacting as they expect, you do something completely different. You refuse to play along. This might seem like an overly simplistic solution, right? But what you may not realize is that narcissists thrive on reactions. Your anger, your hurt, your confusion. They feed off it like vultures circling carrion. Your emotions are their fuel. The more intense your response, the stronger they become. By refusing to respond or engage with them at all, by remaining calm and composed, you effectively starve them of this lifeline. Let's illustrate this with an example. Suppose there's a coworker who consistently takes credit for your work during meetings. Ordinarily, you'd confront him angrily or complain bitterly to other colleagues about it later on. Both reactions he'd undoubtedly relish because they show how much he's under your skin. But now imagine if next time he tries his stunt, you just smile politely and say nothing. Instead, at some point during the meeting when everyone's attention is on you, or even better when it isn't, casually bring up some aspect of your project that only someone who actually did the work would know about. Suddenly it's clear to all present who really deserves the credit without any need for confrontation or petty office politics. Now that will certainly throw him off balance. Similarly, let's consider another scenario where a narcissistic partner tries to provoke jealousy by openly flirting with others in front of you, rather than becoming upset or jealous as expected, and thus giving them satisfaction. Respond indifferently, or even be mildly amused by their childish antics. It could be as simple as raising an eyebrow and saying, eyebrow, and saying, "Isn't that interesting?" before changing the subject calmly. By doing so, not only have you refused to play their game, but you've also shown them that their tricks won't work on you. The message is clear. You are not a pawn in their game, and they can't control or manipulate your emotions. Remember, when dealing with a narcissist, the aim isn't to beat them at their own game, because that's a game no one truly wins. Instead, change the rules entirely by refusing to even participate. It might take some practice and patience, but once mastered, this approach will render the narcissist's manipulative tactics useless. In essence, by reacting differently, by not reacting at all, you create an environment so alien and uncomfortable for the narcissist that they would rather flee than continue playing a losing game. They'll run away like bats out of hell when they realize there's no longer any emotional turmoil for them to feast upon. As you confront the narcissist in your life, remember that they thrive on chaos. They relish the drama, feed off of emotional energy, and use it to manipulate those around them. Now imagine if you were to pull away that source of sustenance. You're no longer playing the victim, no longer reacting with anger or tears. Instead, you respond calmly and rationally. Stripped of their fuel, they are left disoriented. Let's look at an example. Picture Karen, who was regularly belittled by her narcissistic partner John. One day she decided enough was enough. She began to practice emotional detachment, responding with nothing more than a neutral okay or a non-committal if you say so. When Antron tried to provoke her with his typical insults and demeaning comments, John found this new reaction puzzling and frustrating. Where had his usual emotionally charged responses gone? Where were the heated arguments that allowed him to assert control? He tried harder to provoke Karen, but each time he was met with that same cool detachment. In another situation, consider Sarah and her boss Mike, who loved taking credit for her work. When Sarah started confronting him professionally without showing any signs of resentment or frustration, but just cold, hard facts, Mike couldn't handle it either. These two cases illustrate how removing emotional reactions can leave a narcissist feeling powerless. It's like walking into what they expect to be a raging battlefield, only finding an empty field instead. There's simply nothing for them to fight against. However, while this strategy can be effective in disrupting a narcissist's manipulations, keep in mind it isn't always easy. Detaching emotionally from someone who has been causing turbulence in your life requires resilience and practice, as well as support from trusted friends or professionals. But let me tell you something important. This is not about winning against the narcissist. It's about regaining your own power. Your power to choose how you respond, how you feel, and ultimately how you live. Remember that narcissists are like bats. They're creatures of the dark who thrive on chaos and emotional disorder. When faced with calmness and rationality, the bright light of day, they have no choice but to flee. So illuminate your life with self-control and dignity. Show them that their games no longer affect you, that there's no more emotional turmoil for them to feed on. They'll run away like bats out of hell when they realize the game has changed, because this time it's a game they can't win. You might be wondering, what is this powerful tactic that holds the potential to shake a narcissist's world? It's none other than indifference, apathy, unconcerned detachment. When you show complete disinterest in their games of manipulation and control, it is as if you've pulled the rug out from under them. Let's take an example to illustrate this point. Imagine for a moment that you're at a party with Sarah, your charismatic yet undeniably self-absorbed friend who thrives on being the center of attention. She starts by subtly belittling your achievements in front of others, trying to overshadow you with her own grand exploits. In response, instead of falling into her trap by defending yourself or responding emotionally, imagine if you simply shrugged and changed the subject, or even walked away to mingle with other people. By not offering any emotional reaction or engaging in her game, Sarah would be left high and dry without an audience for her performance. It might sound simple, but implementing it requires strength, because indifference isn't about ignoring the narcissist out of spite. It has more depth than that. It stems from understanding their toxic pattern and then consciously deciding not to let them influence your emotions anymore. Consider another case. Think about John, your ex-boyfriend who had a knack for making everything about him. Remember how he used to twist every argument into being somehow your fault? What if next time when he tries provoking you over text or call, instead of arguing back or justifying yourself, you calmly tell him his accusations no longer affect you? You assertively state that unless he has something constructive to say, there's no need for further communication. This potent display of indifference will leave John stunned because it disrupts his usual script, one where he plays victim while painting everyone else as villains. Remember, though, while using indifference as a tool against narcissists can seem empowering at first, it may also lead to aggressive backlash from them. They might attempt to regain control through further manipulation or even rage. But hold your ground firmly. In conclusion, indifference is a powerful weapon against the narcissist's arsenal, of manipulation and control. It's like turning off a television that always plays the same disempowering show. Once you switch it off, there's no drama to watch, no emotional turmoil for them to feed on. They are left with no other choice but to exit stage left, running away like bats out of hell. You've been there, haven't you? Staring into the eyes of a narcissist, feeling as if you're nothing more than a puppet dancing on their strings. The emotional turmoil they create can be overwhelming, but here's the thing. There's a power switch that only you can control. Let me share with you how turning it off can send them packing, fleeing from the scene like bats out of hell. Imagine this. You are at a party and your narcissistic friend is holding court. They're captivating everyone with stories designed to make them look like the hero or victim, whichever role suits their narrative best. Suddenly, you muster up your courage and calmly point out a discrepancy in their tale, not aggressively, just matter-of-factly. The room goes silent for a heartbeat as everyone takes in what just happened. Then comes the shift. It's subtle at first, but quickly gains momentum. People start questioning, doubting the authenticity of your friend's stories. This confusion disrupts their stage and threatens their carefully sculpted image. In another instance, picture being in a relationship with someone who tends to play mind games, twisting words and situations to make everything about themselves while subtly belittling you. But one day, instead of feeding into their drama or trying to defend yourself against unfounded accusations, you remain unmoved, responding with simple yet powerful phrases such as "I see. That's an interesting perspective." Or even better, "I understand that this is how you feel." Or these responses are void of any emotional fuel which narcissists thrive on. They are neutral statements that neither agree nor disagree with them, hence leaving no opening for an argument. It might seem counterintuitive right now, because we often instinctively want to fight back when we feel attacked or misunderstood. But trust me on this one. Disengagement is key here. By doing so, by refusing to participate in their chaotic script, you are essentially turning off that power switch. Without drama to feast on or emotional turmoil to manipulate, narcissists will find themselves in uncharted territory. They thrive on tension, and without it, they're like fish out of water. And just like that, before you know it, the narcissist is running away like a bat out of hell. You see, when their supply of drama dries up, when they realize their tactics fail to control or belittle you any longer, when there's no audience left for their performance, that's when they take their exit, not with a bang but with a whimper, leaving behind nothing but echoes of their own empty words. So you've reached the point where this narcissist has left your sphere. You've cut off their supply of attention and admiration. But what's next? Let me tell you a story about someone who was in your shoes not too long ago. Meet Jane. Jane had been in a relationship with a narcissist for several years. She had been charmed by his charisma and talents at first, but soon found herself caught up in his web of manipulation and deceit. He would belittle her, ignore her needs, and consistently place himself on a pedestal. But one day, Jane decided she'd had enough. She started distancing herself from him, not responding to his texts immediately anymore, not showering him with compliments as she used to do before. This change didn't sit well with him. He started seeking validation elsewhere, but couldn't find it in the immediate vicinity. Jane began to focus more on her own life, her interests, her dreams that she'd put aside while being consumed by this toxic relationship. As she shifted her focus away from him towards building up herself again, he couldn't bear it anymore. He felt threatened by losing control over Jane and fled like a bat out of hell. Now here's another case. Meet John, who worked under a narcissistic boss for years. His boss would belittle everyone around him to maintain an illusion of superiority. Classic narcissistic behavior. John decided that he wouldn't allow himself to be subjected to such treatment any longer. He stopped going out of his way to appease his boss's ego. No more late nights at work just because the boss said so, or agreeing blindly to whatever idea his boss threw at him during meetings without offering any constructive criticism or suggestions. His change in attitude was noticed quickly by his narcissistic boss, who found it unbearable when John ceased providing the validation he craved so much, eventually leading him to resign from that job, leaving John free from his toxic influence. These instances might seem extreme, but they're real-life examples of how narcissists react when you stop feeding their ego. It's not easy, and the road is often rocky. But remember this: standing up for yourself and reclaiming your life from a narcissist isn't just an act of self-care. It's a declaration of freedom. So if you ever find yourself in such a situation, muster up the courage to do what Jane and John did. Cut off their narcissistic supply and watch them flee like bats out of hell. In the dance of power with a narcissist, becoming aware of your role and taking back control is pivotal. Remember, no one deserves to be treated as a mere supply for someone else's ego. You are more than that. You are an individual who deserves respect, love, and genuine relationships. So, when you find yourself entangled in the narcissist's web, remember Jane and John's story. Take that brave step they did. Cut off their narcissistic supply. The moment you stop feeding into their illusion of grandeur is when they lose their grip on you. It may not be easy. It will take courage. The kind of courage that comes from realizing your worth and understanding that no amount of emotional manipulation can diminish your value. You see, a narcissist thrives on control and validation. When these elements are taken away from them, they become powerless like bats without their radar system. They run away because they cannot handle the reality where they're not the center of attention or adoration. But this is not about them anymore. This is about you reclaiming your freedom. And here's something crucial to remember. Your action isn't meant to punish them or cause harm, but merely to protect yourself, to set boundaries, which every human being has a right to doubt. So stand tall in your truth, because within it lies your strength. The strength to make even a narcissist flee like a bat out of hell. And all it takes is saying, no, no to disrespect, no to manipulation, no to being used as an ego-feeding supply. Reclaiming your freedom from a narcissist might feel like climbing Mount Everest at first. Daunting yet liberating. But once done, you'll realize nothing was ever more worth doing. Because while this journey starts with saying no to a narcissist, it ends with saying yes to yourself. A resounding yes to your worth, your dignity, and your freedom.